It was Nevada, early summer of 1992, out on the test site where the old blast tunnels were kept sealed and quiet. I was a 33-year-old staff sergeant on a simple escort run Daniel Ror, Security & Co. I had a clean jacket and the habit of writing everything down before lights out. People like to forget things from that place. I never could. The heat sat over the flats like a sheet. Our orders were simple: escort detail for a medical team during routine maintenance in one of the older tunnels, but nothing felt routine. My squad was small and squared away. Sergeant Mark Harlan rode shotgun, older and blunt. You listened when his gut felt wrong. Specialist Ortega handled the radio, a talkative kid who shut up fast when things got rough. PFC Miller was the new, sharp kid. Then there was Lieutenant Evelyn Cross, our liaison, blonde, cold, and never answering anything straight. The real odd ones were Medical Team Alpha, black and gray badges, no names, no patches. Their boots were too clean and their cases were sealed with plain stenciled numbers. Cross's briefing was short: escort the medical personnel, provide security only, no touching equipment, stay on designated paths. Every morning, the convoy rattled out through fenced roads, guard shacks, badge scans, and fresh filters issued daily. Once at the entry station, we loaded into a groaning elevator that dropped us a few hundred feet. The tunnels branched in 3 directions with yellow paint on the floor and signs from the 70s. But the lamps were new, wider, harsher light pointed straight down, making shadows fall in tight rings. By the 3rd day, the wrongness started showing. The tunnels didn't match the old map. One sign read Cypsonata Delta, not on my blueprints. Cross told me to ignore it. I logged everything. I noticed the medics angled their bodies away from certain corridors, avoiding them like a smell. Once, when the lights flickered, a medic murmured, "Keep helmets down if the lights shift." There was a vibration underfoot, not a steady generator but a pulse, a far-off thump like something shifting its weight. Cross claimed it was an airflow trial. The first real shock came near the end of the week. I saw a maintenance hatch halfway open. Behind it wasn't wiring, but new concrete and a corridor that didn't exist on any blueprint. White light spilled out like it had been built yesterday. Cross shut the panel sharply. "We stay en route," she said. That was the moment I knew something lived down there besides us. By the 2nd week, the medics stopped pretending. They moved in tight formations, checking that humming wrist device. They adjusted their formation, protecting something unseen on our left. We passed a T-junction where doors had been welded shut, fresh, clean welds. Above them was a sign, 707 Omega, not on any sheet I'd seen. I started to think the medics weren't doctors, but handlers. Halfway through a shift change, every radio spit static for a few seconds. Then, the Geiger counter on a medic's belt kicked into high chatter before dropping to 0. The lights shifted angles, snapping into tighter cones. A medic whispered, "Proximity reaction." Cross ordered us to stay in formation. I pulled Harlan aside. He confessed he'd heard breathing the night before, slow, like something sleeping. Then the whole tunnel shook. One deep metal thunk from far below, carrying through the walls and up my spine. A second vibration rolled up, heavier and slower. Cross's radio buzzed with a coded pattern. She looked scared. "Nobody goes off route again," she said. "No exceptions." 3 days later, Harlan found me in an old terminal room. He pried open a cabinet with an old access card. Inside were technician logs, dating back before 1970. They used terms like non-human intelligence, containment stability, and indirect observation. One line stuck with me: the entity reacts to human density and direct visual attention. We hadn't found something, we had built around it. That day, the medics acted with purpose. The air around a sealed door felt wrong, too still. We heard a sound like slow, careful scraping. Later, a dead screen flickered with green text: containment stability 78%, cause human presence. Cross pulled the power cord, but the screen stayed black for a second before dying. "Terminal glitch," she lied. By the middle of the 3rd week, the tension reached a breaking point. I rotated half the squad to the surface, knowing that more bodies meant more reaction. I sent an off-channel message to Oversight asking what we were guarding. The reply was chilling: "Follow instructions and you go home. Maintain distance. Do not escalate human presence." Cross finally pulled me aside. "This isn't maintenance," she admitted. "Something exists below these tunnels. Older than the expansions. Non-human." She explained that the medics were containment specialists. The being below regulated an environmental balance, but the restraints were failing. If it notices too many of us, it reacts, she said. We're feeding it a controlled amount of people to prevent collapse. The elevator chimed. No one had pressed the button. The display stopped on a symbol, Delta. The medic stiffened. It's ready, one whispered. We descended to the Delta level. The temperature dropped into a dry, clean cold. We stepped out into a wide hall with rounded corners. The floor had guidelines built into the material. We passed decontamination lanes and observation windows fogged from the inside. Behind them sat massive floor anchors in bent metal. Whispered Rebautis, whispered King Doubt of those, Miller whispered. We reached the core chamber. It was massive. The walls curved with etched markings worn flat. The vibration was no longer a noise, it was pressure. Telepathic images hit me in flashes, underground detonations, massive blasts, and a guardian shifting awake. Humans had panicking and building restraints, choking the very thing that kept the underground stable. The silhouette stood in the center. I didn't look head-on, but I caught the shape in the corner of my eye. It refused to settle. It wanted balance. Cross ordered the medics to pull the rods. The restraints need to be released, she said. If it stays bound, everything fails. The medic pulled the final rod. The chamber changed instantly. The restraints retracted into the walls like a living thing folding inward. At the junction, the medics split off toward a restricted corridor. Escort complete, one said flatly. Cross left the site within a day, reassigned. The lower sector was shut down and filled with tons of fresh concrete. A new sign was stamped over the gate, unstable, no entry. We all knew the lie. My report came back with half the pages missing. I stayed in until retirement, keeping my notebooks locked away. Years later, I drove out to an overlook east of the old range. Standing there, I felt it again, a faint, steady pulse under the ground. Not threatening, just present, holding the line. Some things don't want attention. I learned long ago not to stare at anything that stares back from under the earth.